Oh, hello everyone. I'm going to give it just a second to sync and get live and hopefully stream to all the places it's supposed to stream. And if not, there's always the YouTube recording later. So let's just go ahead and introduce ourselves. And I'm going to let you go first.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Alia Jamal. I am the love coach and I'm also a pranic healer. I focus on unconditional self love, and my passion is helping individuals find their one true love within them.
Mm, so beautiful. Their one true love within them. That is powerful. So, I'm Safrianna Lughna. I'm the queer spirit guide, and I really just help people step fully into their authenticity on their cosmic blueprint because we all get disconnected from it when we come in because there's so much disruption in society and our shared collective field. So, I just kind of help people come back to that within themselves. And obviously, being the queer spirit guide, I specialize in helping LGBTQIA people and allies, as well as star seeds and pretty much the wild and woo of the world. Those are my people. So I am so honored to be here with you, Alia. And this has been a conversation long in the making for sure.
And I am so excited to be here. And as you were introducing, I'm like, you help people connect with their magic again. We forget how
Mm,
magical we are, how powerful we are. And that's the work you're
yes.
doing. And I just want to acknowledge that and thank you for doing that.
Thank you. So, this is going to be a four-part talk series. Today, we're talking about soul love, which is that inner love. And I'm sure we're going to talk about, it's going to be very blended. But this is a four-part series. Next time in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about conscious connections. And then in another, so 4 weeks, we'll be talking about the energetics of advanced relationships. And then the final call, which would be in 6 weeks, is going to be more of a Q&A. So if you have specific questions you'd like us to answer about self-love, about relationships, about polyamory, about literally anything related to love, really, please feel free to ask in the comments or reach out to one of us. That way we can really be sure to answer those specific questions in the last call. So let's dive in. Where shall we start? So you have had this, I mean, we both have. I think it would be good to kind of orient to where we first found our soul love. Where did we as individuals kind of have that click of like, you know what, I love myself. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing to love myself.
Yeah. So I'll go. I didn't even know what self love is. I just knew that, you do really good in life. You go to school, you need to be smart, then you get married, and then you have kids. That was my life plan. And when that plan, got cracked in it, I started questioning life itself. I started questioning myself. And that was the start of my journey in 2015. And I didn't find really love for myself till 2019, because by the time 2019 came around, I was already a coach, I was already a pranic healer, but I have also started to study the heart energy center, front heart, back heart, world of the heart, how you, when you enter into the heart, you can actually control your mind much better, all about that. And that is where I started feeling like I am moving from here more here,
Mm.
and I'm connecting with my soul. And September 1st, 2019, I was having a solo breakfast with myself. And in that moment, I realized I have fallen in love with myself.
Mm.
I have fallen in love with myself so much that I will actually wake up a little earlier, go out and nurture that connection with myself. I mattered that much. And that was the first day, I would say, I was fully aware of it. And in that moment, a voice talked to me and said, "You're the love coach, you're gonna help others connect with your heart." And I was like,
Mm.
okay, let me figure out the marketing around that.
Let me just figure out this title. I know that feeling.
Yeah. So that was the beginning. And one thing that when I work with my client, a lot of them are coming from relationship issues. Either they're married but not happy, or they just gone through divorce, or they have been in so many relationships but never satisfied. Just yesterday, I was talking to one of my clients who was like, I really want a partner who gets me, and I'm
Yeah.
like, that partner is gonna be only you.
Yes.
And that thing, like, for me to realize that no one else can live inside of me except me. No one else can ever understand me the way I understand or see the world. Like,
Yes.
that feeling of loneliness
Mm.
within you, but then you also are not alone at the same time, because you are connected with this force that's within you, that's your soul. That awareness was, I would say, it was liberating and painful all at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good way to describe it. Liberating and painful at the same time. Last night I was just having the worst body pain. The worst body pain. My head was pounding. I ended up actually like ill, and I just accepted it for the alchemy that it was. I was like, what am I transmuting right now, right? And that's, I think, when we can shift our perspective on things being painful, not as like it's bad, but sometimes it is the process of alchemy, and you have to like give something to have that alchemical return, right? It's an equal exchange. And so the pain, I don't know why we humans had to decide that that was the way it was going to be, but it is a painful process, but that doesn't mean it needs to be avoided or like run away from.
Exactly. One of my friend one time said, I think she read it in a book. There's two type of pain. Um, One is the pain that gets you to a better tomorrow. One is the kind of pain that gets you stuck. When we
Mm,
choose to grow, we are going towards a better tomorrow. So it's like, it's really painful, to be honest with me, with myself. But on the other side, there's liberation.
yes.
Or I can stay in my own misery for the rest of my life. I get to choose which pain is better. I'd rather be in pain for like 5 days and then feel like
Yes. Yes. Like I've been doing really, really hardcore codependency work over the last year, and it's been painful because there have been relationships I've had to let go and all of that. But in in that, I've discovered so much of myself and uncovered so much more of myself. It's so interesting how many layers there are to peel back and to get into
yeah.
deeper love with ourselves. I'm feeling so inspired. I'm going to try and like find something in the background here while I'm chatting because I want to read a poem. I actually wrote a poem in 2019
Yeah.
called The Woman I'm in Love With, because that was the moment I fell in love with myself, was also in 2019. So
Yeah,
2019 was
that
just
was
this
the year of
year.
awakening, right before 2020. That was the year.
Literally, I think that so many of us in the healing world sort of had awakenings in 2019.
Yeah.
Again, more layers, peeling back the layers of awakening, because many of us have had, these ongoing experiences. But yeah, I wrote a poem. I cannot find it right now. Maybe I will by the end of our call, but it was a very distinct moment for me. I was in a toxic relationship at the time, and I'm polyamorous. Surprise, not surprise. Pretty much everyone knows I'm so open. And so I was in a toxic relationship, but I had just started dating my now wife. And of course, everything was out in the open. Like, this was not cheating or anything like that. But in that, I started to recognize, oh, this other relationship's really not healthy, because this new relationship, the communication was so much better, and like I was seeing more for me and so on and so forth. But that contrast helped me start to consider what was right for me. And I remember this very, very distinct moment. My wife still works at a church and does the sound for them. And so I would go with them. My wife uses they, them pronouns. Um, I would go with them on Sunday and just kind of sit in the sound booth with them and half watch the sermon. Not my religion, but I'd like listen in for things that kind of landed, and I was just soaking up the energy there with my wife. And I got up to go to the bathroom, and this church is bougie. It's very bougie. It's like
Wow.
it's just this bathroom is like stone
Oh,
and wall to wall mirrors. And so I'm washing my hands and like I'm looking at the free lotion they have out. And I look up and I meet my eyes in the mirror. And I was like, I love you.
wow.
And there was just this intense thawing in that moment, this intense, like, oh, this, like, I can finally let down and let
Finally.
go and be loose and free.
Yeah.
And it was immensely powerful. And so I wrote a poem about it that right now I can't find because, of course, um,
Now I'm gonna go find
multitasking.
that poem. I
I know.
need to
I'm like, I
read
know it's somewhere and I'm going to find it. But that moment is cemented in my mind. The way I looked at myself, the way that I felt like I can't go back from this. And so I
it.
ended up leaving that toxic relationship like within the span of the week. And so that was really where I started to do that like inner look at myself because I'd always been externalizing, always looking for that validation in others. And when we're
Yeah,
doing that, we often find toxicity.
exactly. Because when this is home, when I'm not here, I'm outside, I'm going to feel lost. I have to come home. So whenever we are seeking that energy from other people to fill us up, it doesn't feel right.
Mm-mm.
And I work with people who are happily married in beautiful relationships, still feel alone within them or feel like something is missing, and that is the work we do. Okay,
Right.
it's not something your partner can give you. It's something you have to give to yourself. And that is where soul plays a role. Soul came in this body, we like it or not. That is the power we'll connect with. That is the power that's living through us. We ignore that power, then we are depressed, we are stressed, we are anxious.
Understatement. Yeah, that lack of self-alignment, that is the work that I'm getting into now is helping people step more into alignment
Yeah.
because I had to realize in myself and live that out that I was living off blueprint. I was not living according to my design. I was living according to what I thought society and other people wanted from me. And that's just
Yeah.
that doesn't work. And we end up in this like self-despair and depression and anxiety because we're so off again, off our blueprint. We're not in alignment with who we are.
Exactly. And the culture and the society globally, what how we are living, how human are living at the moment, it's not natural. And we forget that it's not natural from starting from, like, the demands of study and demands of relationship, and how every family needs to look perfect, and this is how you should be. If you're not that, there's something wrong with you. That's just not natural.
No.
We are made in all kinds of shapes and sizes, and there we life is full of challenges, and when we do start looking at it, everything is serving me,
Yes.
connecting me with me, forcing me to connect with me. That's where everything starts to become so much easier and looser now too.
Yes. Yes. Like the real the real self-love begins when we are able to just land in this is all happening for me. What is this teaching me? What layer of myself or part of myself is this revealing? How can I love that part of me more? I talk a lot about the book My Friend Fear. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. Um,
No, I
it's
haven't read it yet.
oh, it's gorgeous. The author is Mira Lee Patel,
Okay.
and she has illustrated it in this beautiful watercolor. And she's got her story written with these illustrated gorgeous pages, which makes you just want to drink it up. But the whole book is about fear.
Wow.
And the title, My Friend Fear, is about walking hand in hand, like getting to know that part of you and supporting it. And like that that was my first, I think, access to, oh, there is this part of me that's afraid and she's like a little child. And
Yeah.
that's not very loving if I'm critical of her for
Yeah,
being afraid. So how can I love her better? How can I soothe her in a loving, compassionate way rather than being critical? And that gives us the opportunity, all the experiences, the traumas that we went through
yeah,
that weren't, not a conscious choice, not we didn't sign up for it here on earth. We might have signed up for it up there, maybe,
yeah,
depending on your belief structure. But we're not responsible for the trauma that happened, but we're responsible for our responses to it. And that includes how we treat ourselves for having had the experience. So
exactly.
can we be kind and gentle and befriend the parts of us, such as our fear or our shame, that keep us from accessing that self-love?
Yeah. And I take the reason I use the word unconditional self-love, because when I talk to, so I primarily work with women. When I talk to them about self-love, every woman is like, "Oh, I love myself." And I'm like, of course we love ourselves, otherwise we won't even be alive. You had to feed yourself, bathe yourself, get out of bed, all require some level of self-love,
Right.
self-care to do that. But then there is a level of love where there's no judgment. You just accept yourself. You accept yourself just the way you are. That is where unconditional self-love starts, and that is where we start to connect with our soul, because it's pure light.
Yeah.
If I am playing with, like, my darkness, and I'm like, what's wrong with me, and why can't I fix myself? Why couldn't I do it last month or last year? The pure essence, we don't get access to that fully. But once we become okay with, like, I understand, I have some things to work on, but it's okay. I accept them. They are mine.
Mhm.
That is the when the opening happens. That is where, like, soul is moving through us. It's almost like we are a vessel that has expanded, and now that light can live through us, and it can take us places, and we will discover, oh my god, how powerful I am.
Yeah.
And I can actually walk through this fear that I thought, like, will take my life away, was just an illusion. When we start having those experiences, life just become, it's like a different level of living.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that you just talked about like this vessel for energy, right? When we've experienced trauma, especially really, I mean, most trauma is relational. Obviously, there's medical and natural disaster and such, but most trauma is relational. We can shrink our capacity. We can shrink our energetic containers
Yeah,
where we're like, "No, I'm afraid." And that comes from in internal family systems, there's this concept of the capital S self.
yeah,
And we all possess this capital S self. And to me, that's the soul. It is our core essence. When trauma happens, the parts of us come in to protect and cover up that soul so we're not lost. So the essence of us is not
yeah,
lost. But we have to unpile those parts in order to access that spark again and then to expand our container, our vessel, our ability to hold more of that energy. We're
yeah,
not supposed to be like enlightened and at peace like 24/7, but we
yeah.
absolutely can be in tune with us 24/7
I
if we're willing
mean,
to.
I feel like if we want to be enlightened and all that, we need to go sit in a cave so we don't never interact with another human. Because as long as you're in relationships, you're gonna get triggered. You're gonna learn more about your triggers.
Mm.
I was talking to one of my mentor last Friday, and I am so proud of myself, the work I have done in past 2 months. And I'm sharing, like, this happened. I thought this, but then I didn't act on it, and he was like, that's wonderful. That's wonderful you did that. But just so you know, it will always keep evolving. So next month, this might not even work, or it will show up in a different way. In that moment, I wanted to, like, scream, like, oh no. But then I know that's it's all those layers, and falling in love with that work is what makes it easier. And to me, it's almost like, I'm on treasure hunt. I'm looking for, like, the totality of my soul. Okay, I have uncovered this. I found this. I know in this area, Alia the soul, or soul doesn't have any name, is so powerful. Okay, let's discover another area. So that is what it has made it a little bit easier over time.
Yeah. And we are changing beings. Like that is the bottom line is we are constantly changing. This is something when I teach, so sometimes I teach like nonprofit and other corporations about like gender and sexuality and romantic and like all of that. That's like we think of that as a fundamental part of our being, like, oh, I was born and I was this way, I was straight or I was not straight. That can actually change too. I have had so many labels that I've applied to myself that, a year later I'm like, that doesn't fit anymore. Like I went through an
Yeah,
intense time where I thought I was non-binary. Well, I mean, I'm sort of non-binary, but I don't attach myself to that term anymore
yeah,
because I actually realized I liked identifying as a woman more,
yeah,
but I have agender pieces of me. So it was like, what label do I use? And I had to like, you know what? It's going to change. It's a spectrum. And we're constantly like
yeah,
taking in, like you said, we'd have to go isolate ourselves in a cave to stop taking in outside information, which makes us reflect differently inwardly.
yeah,
And I could have been like super hard on myself for changing my labels. Like, how dare you? You're making it hard on no, I'm just being me in the moment and that changes.
yeah. So that is a wonderful point because I have issues with labels. I'm anti-label. Whenever I am aware of it. Whenever, even when I was little, someone would tell me, "Okay, you're this," it was just like internally, I was like, "No, I'm not." So
Mm.
even now, like, when I in self-development, like, there's so many personality tests, there's so many ways of looking at yourself. Whenever I see a label, like, it does something within me, and that's the rebellious part of me, and I'm like, I'm the soul.
Yeah.
I'm the soul. There's no other label. I am this infinite, unlimited being, because that's the same thing. I can change. I have
Right.
the ability to change. What I'm able to do today, in terms of, like, my interaction with others, if you would have told me 2 years ago, I wouldn't believe you. So what is that? I have changed and I'm going to continue changing. So when we try to put ourselves in a box, our essence, our being shows us you don't belong in a box.
And there are some labels that sometimes are useful for the human experience,
Yeah,
but they don't get to the essence. There's no word that can encompass the fullness of who
yeah,
and what we are.
yeah,
There's just no word.
true.
And so I think that is like a human frustration where we're like, but the word is limiting us.
Yeah. There's this one meditation center. I'm eyeing to go to their place. Their retreat just sell out so fast before I can book it. One thing that they talk about, they do silent retreats and like all day silent meditation. So there was a whole thing about words, and they were like, we take you to a place where there's no words. And I was like,
Mm,
sign me up for that. Because we do have this need, and it is a human need to label, so I know what it is, so I can feel secure and I can feel safe, so I can identify myself, I can identify you. It's almost like a need. But sometimes I challenge myself, let's go to a place where there's no words, there's no label, where I just feel you and you can
yeah.
just feel me, and we can connect at that level. It's almost like, in that Avatar movie where they connect the tails and they can just feel each other's essence.
I love that movie for so plot plot not great. The culture wonderful. Like the biology wonderful. Oh my gosh, I remember that like they weave together and then they
Yeah.
just feel each other's essence. I was like, I want to do that.
Yes. So sometime in my imagination, I take myself there. How would it even feel to feel another human just with their essence and not think about how they look or what their
Mm,
name is or what their characteristics are? They are good to me or not good to me. I believe that's just a very good exercise to do with ourselves too. In fact, that is where a lot of my growth happened. Last October, I took a class where the teacher was teaching us how to meditate on our higher soul.
Mm,
He was teaching us with like how to connect with the master,
okay.
and me being the experimenter, I came home and I was like, if I can connect with the master, I can connect with my soul. So I started doing that, and all I would do, close my eyes, just sit there, and I'm like, I want to see my soul. I want to feel my soul. And I just
Mm,
want to just swim in that energy, just be with it. Forget about
yeah.
what my identity is in this moment, like, all of that. And just be in that place. And it started to do something to my nervous system, which I still have to figure out what it did. But I was able to do things from that point on that I thought were impossible, humanly
Yeah.
impossible for me to do at this time. Maybe in 10 years I could do it, but I was able to do it and I was blown away. I'm like, oh, I think this is what we call tapping into your soul,
Mm,
harnessing that power, and living above what we think a human experience is supposed to be.
yeah.
Of course there were like, still cries and like sadness and grief, there was all of that, but I could move through everything with a very different power.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
can experiment with that. Like, whoever is listening, if you haven't experimented, just sit there and feel your soul, or, or talk to it and see what kind of sensations will happen and the places you'll go.
Yeah, like that tuning into your own authentic energy, what is
Yeah,
actually you and yours. And we over buy into everybody else's stuff and society's stuff because we're here and it's very easy to blur the lines.
yeah,
But that is so beautiful that you intuitively knew, like, I need to connect with my energy, what's
yeah,
just mine. And I could absolutely see that uh fast tracking,
yeah.
right? If you're able to clear out the clutter,
Yeah,
that it could fast track your access to yourself, that capital S self, your divine essence. And that absolutely would open you up to more capacity for self-love.
yeah. And it was just like, even like now, like I had a moment 3 days ago, I was just sitting reflecting on my past 1 year, all the accomplishments, because I was working through book, and she was like, write down all the wonderful things you have done in last year. The list is pretty long, and I was like, wow, I was able to do all that. But the turning point was that class and that meditation with myself, and it was just like, wow, so that is where all the magic is.
Mm,
So now, as I navigate life, I'm always asking myself, whatever I'm doing, is it for my soul, or is it for somebody else? And it
yeah.
just makes the navigation so much easier.
Yeah, that's a powerful question. Is this for my soul or is this for somebody else?
Yeah,
Because there are times where we do want to discern, well, I do want to do this for someone else and it's for my soul. And that's okay, right? Like, but when it's just, no, this is just for somebody else, right? We're coming in from that place of codependency. Charmaine saying yes in the comments right now. Yeah, like what a great question to really discern. It makes me think of the question that I often ask myself and I have other people ask themselves, which is, am I enjoying myself right now? Right? Because our soul
yeah,
and what we want to do and what we want to be is joy and love and light.
yeah,
And so, am I enjoying myself? And am I just doing this for someone else? Usually, if we're just doing it for someone else, we're not enjoying it because
yeah,
there's no peace for us. So that is such a great piece of discernment. I love
yeah.
that.
And what happened when we are doing it for someone else? Unconsciously, we manipulate ourselves. And just this weekend, I had this wonderful conversation with a friend of mine. We were talking about how we both have manipulated ourselves in the past in relationships, and I was talking about a story that happened like maybe in 2017, And now this self, I can look at it and I'll be like, in what, like, where was my mind that I manipulated and hurted myself that way? Um, but that's what conditioning can lead us to. The separation from our
Yeah.
divine self can lead us to, like, we are pleasing someone else is just so much more important than staying true to ourselves. And then once we go through that process, we learn it.
Yeah. And
We
you know,
continue learning it.
there's a lot of unlearning and relearning we have to do because again, so much of our trauma is relational and unfortunately most people that I know it's not that their parents were cruel necessarily, in some cases they were, but it was just that generational trauma, like we've passed so much down of not being emotionally, caring,
Yeah,
or not knowing how to relate and be in relationship in a healthy way. And so a lot of us grew up with really critical caregivers or critical teachers. I had critical teachers too, like just critical authority figures that teach us as kids to
yeah,
question ourselves. And as kids, we literally cannot know any differently. We don't even have a self concept until we're like 7 or older.
yeah,
So, in the first 7 years, if we've consumed like negativity, we've consumed self criticism, like a lot of our parents weren't necessarily even like pointing it at us, but they were pointing it at themselves. And then we saw that and we're like, oh, mom's talking about being too chubby.
yeah,
Oh, well, I'm chubby too. That must mean something's wrong with me, right? Like these
yeah.
internalized things. We have to unlearn all of that as adults so that
True.
we can completely love ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that acceptance piece that is just so powerful. And there's so many layers to it. I remember in May of 2021, so I don't have a full length mirror in my home. One time my son broke it, and I was just like, I don't want any mirror in the house because of, like, safety reasons. So there's like this tiny mirror in the bathroom. And I was in a hotel room where they had a full length mirror, and I don't know after how many months or years I saw my full body, and my first response was, I didn't know my tummy's that out, because I don't look the whole. I just look, oh, everything looks good, right? In that moment, and I stopped myself. I was like, are we criticizing ourselves? And then I was like, okay, I accept that, that's my body right now. That's where my body needs to be right now, because I was doing such deep work in that year, processing the grief of my divorce, and then, like, what you're doing, going in business full time, being a single parent, virtual school. And I was like, hey, it's okay. It's okay. You've been eating pizza. We know that. It's okay. But that moment, I will never forget it. Like, the criticism, the strong criticism that came, it wasn't mine. It's all, like, attached to, like, a woman's or men's, like, our stomach needs to look certain way. But then real human don't have that, because we have lives that we live and seasons that we go through.
And
And
sometimes we
how,
need comfort pizza
yeah, and how, or ice cream.
or ice cream.
And how I was able to stop myself and, like, go towards acceptance. And ever since then, I remember, then I came home, I did buy a full length mirror, and I said, no, I want to look at myself, and I want to accept this tummy
Mm.
wherever it is. And when it wants to go in, it will do that. But right now, that acceptance piece is very important. And there was a little bit struggle in the beginning, but once I got through that, now I don't hold my stomach in when I'm taking a picture, which is liberating.
Yeah.
So being able to see, like, okay, this criticism is learned, and acceptance is, like, accepting all parts of me, acknowledging what I'm going through today, what I have been through, and how I'm already learning different ways of being with me, with food, with my emotions, and it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
my favorite sentence is, with my clients and with myself, wherever I am, and it's okay, or it's not end of the world. It just like, takes like all that burden off of our shoulder of what we have been taught we should be.
Mhm.
Um, but who have ever achieved should. There is always going to be another should. But
Right.
accepting what is powerful.
Very, very. And
It,
like
it
us.
releases so much energy. Now let's use that energy to build something else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so like when we are self-critical and we're lacking that self-love, we're constantly beating ourselves up or spiraling into shame or fear or whatever. That's an energy sink. Oh my gosh, it's exhausting. It is so exhausting. And
Yeah.
like since I've stepped out of that, I'm able to witness it so much more in others. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that was me, 5 years ago or whatever." And I'm like, that just it looks exhausting from the outside too, because you can
Yeah.
see how much energy is being spent towards fueling the self-criticism or towards fueling the fear or the shame or the disappointment or the doubt or the whatever. And so if we can just clear that up, absolutely, what can we now create because we have our energy back?
Exactly. I call them energy leaks.
Mhm.
Like, with my clients, when we start the work and we're like, okay, let's find all the energy leaks that are happening in your vessel, how it's like, getting out. Once we close all that, see, now you have all this energy. What you're gonna do with that? What
What
kind
are
of
you going to
life
do
you
with that?
want? Because what happens when we are playing small, when we are told that you're small and we're playing small because we have bought into that, and we are not aware of this unlimited self that we have, that is our truth, our true essence. We don't even dream big. So many time I teach my clients how to dream big, and it
Hmm.
feels so uncomfortable,
Yeah.
so uncomfortable. That's when I give the the homework. Go to the best neighborhood that you know of, and maybe go into a home, a open house, walk in there and feel how it will feel to live there. Drive the best car, wear the best everything, go to the best vacation, like how having more, or doing something that you would absolutely love. Maybe right now whatever you're doing it just to pay bills. How would that feel? And that expansion happens when we stop those energy leaks, or at least become aware of them, and then we can use
Right.
the energy to create unlimited life.
Yes.
Unlimited life.
Yes. And to actually, again, enjoy it, right? Because we can't enjoy when we are caught in this disruptive cycle of
Yeah,
self-hatred,
yeah. There's
self-loathing.
no joy.
There is no joy in that. There is no, I mean, yeah, and I can remember I was actually reflecting. I reflect in the shower a lot. It's like my time to think,
That's the best place. Like
the
my
best
best
place.
content come in there, and it's amazing place.
Yeah. And so I was just kind of like thinking this morning about my undergrad years, and those were probably my worst self-critical years, if I'm being perfectly
Mhm.
honest. Like undergrad was rough, because yeah, that early 20s, like if you had any childhood trauma, your early 20s, you are unpacking all of it or not unpacking all of it, and you're trying to mask it. And at that time, like I was drinking so heavily just to numb and mask the pain. And then I'm like, "Oh, wow, thank goodness I kind of got through that and I'm still here and all, it's okay. I'm sure my health would be better if I never went there, but like I've healed from that, right?" And so even sometimes we look back at something we did in the past and there can be this like, "Oh, I got to beat myself up for how could I have done that?"
Yeah,
But what if we can honor and love ourselves? Like, you, sweetheart, you were really trying to do everything you could to get through that really rough time and to manage and all of that. And it's okay. You're here now and you're healing from that. And I love you. And you went through that.
yeah,
Like, we can get so caught up in um that lack of joy from the past even. But
yeah,
yeah, I just even thinking back, there was no joy in that, right? When we're numbing,
yeah.
we're also numbing the capacity to experience joy.
Yeah. I remember when I really started to feel fun. What is fun? Like I really started to feel it. Just like, oh, so that's how it feels. I can't even remember, like, maybe when I was really, really young, I felt it. But at some point, I just became this serious person who needed to do everything perfect, and perfection was more important, or other people validation was more important. But when I started to just let go of that, I started to feel me. It felt so weird
Yeah.
in the beginning. That fun part, and digging deeper a little bit into it, or like giving myself permission to have fun, all requires some work, some permissions over there. I
Well,
know.
I mean, if we're stuck in that self-loathing, we're not gonna believe that we're worthy of fun.
Yeah,
So we have to find even a little shred of self-love to begin, right? Like, okay, maybe you're worth it, right? I love the phrase being willing to be willing, right? That's the first
yeah,
step. We first have to be willing to love ourselves.
yeah.
Then we can be willing to love ourselves, and then we can love ourselves. It's
Yeah.
this process.
It's like, it's a choice, it's a decision, and we all make it at our own pace whenever it happens. Um, One thing about self forgiveness I have seen, people think like, I need to forgive that person who did all that to me. But in reality, or in practice, it's me that I need to forgive who was standing there.
Yes.
However, I come up with that, the framework that I do. So with my client, I do self forgiveness first, and then we forgive anybody else. Because when I forgive myself, now me and whoever that version was, we are together.
Mm,
I'm not fighting with my own self.
yeah.
When we are together, we have more energy to forgive or release someone else.
Yeah.
So,
That is very, very true.
but I also know from practice, it's not easy. There was this one very specific moment. I think I have worked 1.5 year to forgive myself for that,
Mm.
because it was just like going back to it, running it all over again, and then coming back in this moment and realizing, okay, I'm still a little bit mad at myself, just a little bit. There's 5% left. Okay, we'll take care of it the next time.
Yeah.
And when I was fully 100% able to forgive myself, it was just like nothing else mattered. I can forgive anybody.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
I found me through that experience. Now I'm embodying it, that oneness within me. So forgiving others become easier when we forgive ourselves, but it's not easy.
Yeah, sometimes it feels easier to forgive someone else because we're like, and I mean this can be a test of where we are sometimes too. Like it can be easier to forgive other people because we're still so self-critical towards ourselves, and we're like, yeah, and maybe it's not real forgiveness in that case because we're like, I probably deserved that, and
Yeah,
that's why we're forgiving of them. So I do think
yeah.
true self-forgiveness is a huge key to coming into our soul love, coming into loving ourselves.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, if you grew up around any religion, but people who have grown up around a religion, there's almost like, this bargain we do. If I forgive that person, God will forgive me.
Mm,
Or if you forgive, you'll be a bigger person. So we pushed ourselves to forgive. And that's just assumed forgiveness. That's not a real forgiveness, because real forgiveness, we are not holding on to any of that energy anymore. Not in any single cell of my body, I'm
right,
attached to that person.
right.
And that does take some time, a few years to get there. So I always question myself, like, if I'm letting this go, like, what is my internal motive? Am I doing a bargain with God here? Or this is a real forgiveness happening where I
Yeah.
am completely at peace, and I have accepted all the things that have happened, and I'm so grateful for the experience. So sometimes we have to, like, just ask a couple of additional questions to see what's going on.
Yes. And, what was coming up as we're talking about self forgiveness is the ownership piece. And ownership, I think, is huge to healing because if I can own my role in a situation, then I am empowering myself in a future situation not to do the same thing.
Yeah,
Versus, when we're in that victim mentality, it's really hard to love ourselves too because we're seeing ourselves as a victim. We're seeing ourselves as powerless. We're seeing ourselves as, everyone else has power over me. Versus, I remember one of the big things I had to forgive myself for was basically siding with my abuser and saying, "Oh, it's okay that you're also treating other people like that. I will just defend you." And at first, I was after the split, I'm like, like it's all their fault. Like it was them, they did all. And then I was like, no, I have to own that I chose to stay in the situation and make excuses for the behavior. But if I own that and I forgive myself for that,
yeah,
then I'm not going to have that happen again in the future. So ownership gives us our power back.
yeah. That is so true.
It's
That is so
scary. We
true.
don't like to
Yeah,
admit. We don't like to take I mean, I actually like taking ownership now because I get really clear. I'm like, "This is mine, and
yeah,
all of the rest of that is yours." And that's a really good feeling for me because I
yeah,
know, like, I know what's mine, and I know what someone else's is, and I know what not to buy into and what to buy into. And again, empowerment, and we can't find that empowerment if we're unwilling to look at our own way that we're treating ourselves, our own way of being in the world and letting other people treat us.
yeah.
All that ownership stuff is so important.
That is so true. And when I started this work, I didn't even know what ownership means
Mm,
because I never knew that concept. I didn't even know, like, that's how actually life is working. I'm taking part in whatever is happening. So when that concept gets introduced to us sometime for the first time, we feel bitter just from that. It's like I am owning it, but I am bitter about it. too. What one thing that really helped me to fully release that was the concept that at a soul level, I chose this experience. My body, my nervous system might never understand why I chose this experience.
mhm.
But the wisdom of my soul knows that this will take me somewhere. When I will do this work or untangle these knots that this experience has created, I'll get somewhere. So it almost created a space to just be in the unknown and not have all the answers and not knowing exactly what's going on, or I should have been somewhere already. Like, it's okay wherever I am. So again, like, introducing, it's okay,
Yeah.
there's no rush, we'll get somewhere eventually.
Yes.
So that created, like, the ultimate space within me to just release.
Mhm. Yeah.
Otherwise, I was still, like, holding on to, you did that in that year, and why did you have to do that?
And that's a lot to hold on to.
That's a lot. But then it was just like, the person I was at that time, I didn't even have the information that I have today that I'm using to judge my past version.
Right.
That version of me was doing its best, but it was going through that moment because at a soul I have chosen to go through that moment. Today,
Yes.
I understand 100% why we did it, how it brought us to where we are. I 100% understand it, which is so much fun that I stayed patient and I stayed in the unknown, and finally I have all the answers. And some things I might never have the answers to, but staying in that trust of the soul,
Mhm.
that I'm not just, like, lunatic going around doing crazy things. There's this unlimited wisdom, divine wisdom with me, guiding me through life. My actions might not make sense, but they are taking me somewhere. Like, I was just sitting with myself 2 days ago on my reflection day, and some of the things from my past year don't make sense.
This past year.
In that moment, they did make sense. I was just like, yes, I'm doing it. Yes, we are going it. And now that I have come off a bit of a distance, and I'm like, why did I do that? So then I used the same thing. I was like, my soul chose to go through that moment.
Yes.
in something I might never understand. But how about we trust the soul? How about I don't have to do everything on my own and figure out, have all the answer? How about I trust the soul?
Yes.
Someday I might have the answers, I might not, but like just, leaning in on my soul for that wisdom, for that divine wisdom, because it's connected with everything. It knows my future, it knows my past, it knows my past lives. If we believe in that, it has all that information. How about I just lean on that?
Yeah. Have that connection to our highest self that
Yeah.
can connect us with that energy of the soul. Yeah, Charmaine, the soul knows. The soul knows. And if we can just tune into that inner knowing, we can access this next level of self-love. And
Yeah.
it's so powerful. So, if you were to kind of condense or titrate down a core message, something that you would want people to know, to understand, or to consider about soul level love, what would you say?
I will say it in one sentence: treat yourself as if you are a god.
Mm,
Like, just treat yourself like that. Think about yourself like that. Treat like physically like that. When you're choosing relationship, present yourself the perfect, most beautiful relationship that you're aware of in the moment. Don't settle for, like, oh, I'll just stay here. No, give yourself the highest, the best. When it comes to a divine power, whether we are in a religion or not, like, let's say tomorrow somebody will say, hey, what will you give for, like, sake of this higher power? Will be like, oh, I'll give this much money, or I'll give, like, my best dress or whatever. I am that power too. And when I look at myself, like, how about I treat myself like I'll treat God, then I am giving myself unconditional love. Then I am
mm,
not judging myself. And the truth is, I am God's creation. Who gives me right to judge God's creation? But then we judge ourselves all day long. And God created my cat, the tree. I don't sit there and judge the tree or my cat. I'm loving them unconditionally, watering them, feeding them. So when we bring that concept home, and I start treating myself like that, then my divine essence can
mm,
actually come forward and live through me. Then I'm always choosing the highest for myself, the highest actions, the highest words, um, highest relationship. Like, everything gets better in life. That
yeah.
is where I get to bloom. I get to fully bloom, because then I am not at war against myself.
Mm. That is so powerful. And I love that. I just posted the other day about my belief that we are both human and divine, that we are we're in these body vessels and we have this cosmic connection to whatever, whatever your version of a higher power is, because I believe in the golden thread. And, you know, Jesus says in the Christian Bible, like the kingdom of God is within you,
Yeah.
right? And to me,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's pretty clear. It's within me.
So with my coach, I've been studying universal laws for 3 years, and I have studied more books regarding, like, Bible than anything else. So I can at this point quote a lot of Bible. One of the thing was that Jesus said that, he did all the miracles by tapping into this divine power within him, and we have the power to do that too. So go do that. Don't just, think, oh, I can do all these miracles. You can do it too, but you have to tap into that divine power. Now the question is, how do I tap into that divine power?
Yeah.
And in my personal journey, I have discovered it's unconditional self-love.
Yeah.
And I don't criticize myself, and I accept myself, and I create that psychological safety within this body. That is when the essence just flows.
Yes.
That is when I get to do whatever I want.
Oh,
Whatever.
the flow state. So
Yeah.
good. Yeah, and so if I had to leave anyone with a little gem here, it is that compassion has to come first for ourselves. And compassion does not equal enabling,
Yeah.
because we can be like, I'm being kind to myself by doing insert, numbing method here.
Yeah.
But often that's enabling a deeper issue that is actually keeping us from treating ourselves like we are divine, like we are God, like we are heaven on earth ourselves.
Yeah.
And so really check in with your compassion and your unconditional love for yourself. Are you being genuinely compassionate, or are you enabling
Yeah.
yourself or someone else to actually not be kind to you?
Yeah.
Because I think we can get really caught in those little energy traps.
I absolutely love that gem because here, this is what I discovered. There was a time I'll eat ice cream because I'm like, I'm treating myself. And then now, when I eat ice cream, I'm very aware which emotion I'm numbing right now because it's so overwhelming. And I'm making a mental note. Okay, right now we can eat ice cream and we can just, get the sugar high. But tomorrow we have to sit down and we have to do the work. And that little shift, being able to see where I'm enabling my toxic patterns
Yeah.
within me has been very transformative. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. And again, like, perfect. I'm going to have the ice cream today or the pizza today or whatever because I'm in this and I'm going to compassionately allow it today. But tomorrow, I'm not going to enable this behavior to continue in a way that's
Yeah,
numbing me, because we want to come back to the love. And that means not bypassing the stuff that we need to process. I think that's so
yeah.
important. So thank you for this today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful conversation. And next time we talk in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking more about relationships and about consciously connecting with one another and all that good stuff. So I hope that people got something out of this today. Feel free to, I know we had a couple people watching live, but if you watch the replay, let us know. If you have any follow up questions, let us know. We are here to help you access your highest state of love for yourself and for others.
And thank you so much, everybody, whoever is watching, and thank you for this opportunity. This conversation has been so enlightening and joyful, and I'm just buzzing right now. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Absolutely. All right. Well, until next time, everyone, I'm Safriana, and this is Alia.
Bye.